Hi, I'm Kenji.
And I'm Holden, and today we're going to be talking about integrating the Canvas API with Google Apps Scripts to create a schedule tracking assignment creation tool.
So our first original idea coming into this project was to use the pre-existing EOBot application that I think most of us are familiar with. And EOBot would just essentially give us all the periods that we have in a given day and then the times for each of those periods. What we wanted to do was to sort of take that code and then add on features, but then we decided to go on about the learning management systems route. So in the past, we've had Shobi, Google Classroom, and Edmodo as examples of learning management systems, and what they did um, were that they allowed teachers and students to have like this space where teachers can assign something, students can see the assignment, submit something, get a grade. And the best one that worked for most teachers and students was Jupyter Ed. It probably had the cleanest grading system, the cleanest UIs for most people. And it also was a really smart system in which teachers could say which periods they would have as classes, and Jupyter Ed would actually track each of those classes. Made an assignment, it would track that period they have and make the assignment due at that time. So teachers wouldn't have to go and look for the schedule that they have next day and look for the times and assign all of these different numbers.
So after trying all the learning management systems, Iolani decided to go with Canvas, which is a hub for distributing homework, assignments, and materials, and to make announcements. And so one benefit of Canvas is it has an API, or a application programming interface, which allowed us to create coding implementations to make Canvas more efficient and automate tasks. So right now, one of the problems that a lot of teachers came complaining about was creating and getting the due dates and times for each assignment correctly. So right now the process is you first have to select the section or period that you want to create the assignment for, and then you have to check the bell schedule manually to check what time that period is to see what time to make it due. So that was the problem we wanted to address, and so we decided to use coding to address the problem.
So the first steps that we had to take was to actually determine the exact problems and then work out with the teachers what they wanted so that we wouldn't just end up with this blob of code that teachers don't really know how to use. So we decided to look at the problems, which, as we have mentioned, it was just the times and dates that was really annoying for teachers to figure out. And teachers also wanted a familiar platform instead of this brand new application that they would have to relearn and figure out new buttons and areas to sort of navigate.
And so after deciding on a platform, after looking for platforms, we came to the decision of using Google Sheets because it was a platform a lot of the teachers were familiar with through just using the Google Suite or using the Ultimate Assignment Sheet by Mr. Cropsey. And so another benefit of using Google Sheets is it has Google Apps Scripts built in, which is a scripting platform that allows for lightweight implementation of APIs. So we decided to use Google Apps Script to implement with the Canvas API. And so to reiterate our purpose, it's to integrate Canvas API with Google Apps Scripts to create a schedule tracking assignment creation tool for teachers.
So the first portion that you'll see when you create a copy or see this Google Sheets is that you're gonna first see introductions and setting up, or like first steps, and video tutorials if you need to have actual sort of just visuals, because it's kind of hard to navigate a lot of these features on Canvas. So the first part would probably be the access tokens, which is just this long, super long string of characters, which contains the teacher's username and password. And this essentially gives the Google Sheets access to that account and therefore their class IDs and their section IDs, which do also need to be manually inputted. The second part of the UI, or user interface, are the menu buttons. And these menu buttons are meant to give the teachers the ability to actually execute these commands. And it's also just easier to see instead of these like cells having different buttons or something. It's just all at the top. And from here, you can change settings for access tokens, class IDs, section IDs. Section IDs are just period IDs for which periods you have. And lastly, it's the layout that we also try to focus on, just so.
Okay, so the language Google Apps Scripts uses is JavaScript, so that's what we wrote our program in. And so the first function we created was called create assignments. So create assignments is what actually takes the data from the actual Google Sheets and enters it into parameters to create a Canvas assignment. And the second function is change period pair, which changes the period pair displayed. So we needed this function because each period pair, for example, 1 and 2, always come on the same day. So for different periods that spread across the 8 periods, the teachers need to see what days they actually have class. So that's why we have the change period pair function. And so the first thing the create assignment function does to create the assignment is to take the data and parameters from the actual Google Sheets that the teachers enter. So we use the functions getRange and getDisplayValues to take the parameters in. And then secondly, after taking in the parameters, we had to filter out the blank days because there was no class or that period didn't come on that day. And so we used the function filter to filter out anything that wasn't a string. And a string basically means anything that's in order sequence. So any blanks were filtered out. And then lastly, the filter parameters are sent to Canvas through the URL fetch app, which communicates with the Canvas API. So some other examples of parameters were like the assignment description, the points value, the due date, and the open and close times. So the main part of our functionality of our tool is it automatically gets the open, close, and due dates and times. So as you can see in the table, we use this table to reference every time we create an assignment. So for example, if it's A day period 1, the program would first take it from the parameters in the Google Sheets that are already there, and then it would match it to 8:15, which is when the period starts. And so it will make the assignment due on that day. And so if the period does not exist on a certain date, then the function will also automatically match the assignment to the corresponding class number. For example, like if you're creating an assignment for periods 1 and 8 and it's A day and there's no period 8 on that day.
So changing period pairs, this is simply a way for teachers to be able to see all of their different assignments for the periods that they actually teach. What would happen is that if you created a assignment for, let's say, period 1, or class 1, sorry, for the period pair 1 and 2, the first day of class for the school year, you wouldn't have period 7 and 8 as a class. So what this does is that when you switch it to viewing period 7 and 8, it actually just follows the class date and moves all of the assignments, the due dates, and all of the values to class 1, and it just follows each other as you switch between the period pairs. So testing and distribution, our first run of testing was just quickly sending it to our advisors and mentors to see, to find any bugs or kind of issues that they might have with how the layout might look or any confusing parts. And once we fixed that, we went to secondary testing, in which we shared it with teachers of different disciplines, because we found out that English teachers and math teachers would have different ways of assigning homework, because math teachers, they would have just do these problems for each day, while maybe for English teachers, they might have projects or readings. And lastly, we plan to actually share this with the faculty and staff who might want to use this program to just make it easier to make assignments in Canvas.
So concluding like our project, our next steps is to be able to share the assignment creation tool with more teachers. And then we also want to focus on expanding and improving features and fix any bugs that come up. So a reflection after doing the K Fellowship, some advice we have for potential K Fellowship students is to pick a topic that you're truly interested in, because throughout the summer you'll be spending a lot of time working with it, and it oftentimes may be tedious. So picking something that you're interested in will be the motivation you need to keep working. And throughout working on this project, we also learned how to work together as a team and how to solve problems using code and using the platform's Google App scripts and learning more about functions in JavaScript.
Lastly, we really want to say a big thank you to Dr. Lee, Dr. Chan, and Ms. Okumura. First of all, for being our mentors for this project. They really helped us out a lot with their initial input on how we should work on the project. And we also want to thank Mr. Sasaki as one of the testers for our program, or for the program that we made. And our last really big thank you is for Papa Jack for giving us this opportunity to work on this project over the summer. Thank you.
And then that's a QR.
This is just a QR code for any teachers. If they want to scan it, it'll automatically make a copy of the Google Sheets that we made. If you find any bugs or parts you're confused about, please email us because we're going to try to improve this over the year.